Welcome back, everybody. It is December 27, 2023. I hope you all had a good holiday week. We've got some pretty important things to talk about as far as earthquakes go. For those of you that don't know about this, just northeast of Puerto Rico and just north of the Lesser Antilles and Leeward Islands, since December 22nd, there have been 3 6.0 plus earthquakes. This is an extremely rare situation, and based on the research I've been doing, have not been talked about at all. In fact, in almost all cases, these earthquakes have been removed or not even posted on most earthquake websites. But I have all the data right here to prove it. You are looking at the first of which was a 6.4 on December 22nd. Just over an hour later, we had a strong 6.1 earthquake just miles from the first, which popped up on the USGS for a short period of time before it was then removed. And then finally jumping to just yesterday, a 6.3 in that same exact area took place, making it the third earthquake of 6.1 or higher within a 5-day period. Now here's where things get interesting. If we jump over to the USGS, as I said, none of these earthquakes are being reported, even if you go ahead and check the last 7 days of 4.5 and higher. The only action we're really seeing or getting are these 2 earthquakes off the coast of the Dominican Republic, this 5.3 taking place on December 26th, and then another 5.3 taking place on December 22nd, which is the same Friday that the first 2 of the 6.1 and higher earthquakes took place right in this area here. Zooming back out for a second, the significance of this are the dates. First of all, it's rare to have the 5.0 or higher earthquakes within this area, so seeing these 2 is a rare situation on its own, but the dates are important because on the 22nd, as I said, the first 5.3 took place just north of the Dominican Republic. That is the same exact day, within just a few hours, that this 6.4 earthquake took place, which was then removed, followed by a 6.1 earthquake on the very same day. So right off the bat, we have a link between the 5.0 earthquakes taking place north of the Dominican Republic, which on its own lends more evidence to the fact that these earthquakes actually did take place. So let's check out the data we have on this first of the 6.1 and higher earthquakes, the 6.4 that took place Friday, December 22nd. And if we scroll down into the information area of this earthquake, we can see it has a recorded depth of 87.8 kilometers. And if we scroll down even farther, we can actually see the seismogram for this, which is clear-cut evidence that this event took place. So having this information is key because if we jump back over to the USGS, we have the proof that they are missing data on these 3 6.1 and higher earthquakes. Now, why is that? Your guess is as good as mine when it comes to the USGS. We've gone through this many times where multiple earthquake maps show the data for earthquakes that the USGS just refuses to show. So now that brings us to our 6.1 earthquake, which happened just about an hour after that first 6.4. And again, this is December 22nd, just about 5 days ago. And if we scroll down into the data of this earthquake, we can see right here that we have a 10-kilometer depth, which is a lot more shallow than the 6.4, which makes perfect sense because when you have a large, deep earthquakes, you tend to get large, shallow earthquakes very shortly after. In this case, just over an hour. Finally, jumping over to the 6.3 that took place yesterday in the same exact area as the first 2, we now have a group of 3 6.1 or higher earthquakes in the same region. This particular earthquake only at 5 kilometers in depth. That is extremely shallow. And finally, if we scroll down to the seismogram, we can see that this was actually recorded by the instruments that are in this area. So again, we have proof of all 3 of these earthquakes on the same 2 days that we had the 5.3 matching the Friday earthquakes, and then the second 5.3 that happened on the 26th, the same day as our third 6.3 earthquake that the USGS is not reporting at all. So what is going on in the Atlantic Ocean that seemingly does not want to be talked about? Now, I went ahead and did an experiment on the USGS. If you go to 30 days, all magnitudes, it's going to show you every recorded earthquake that it has picked up in the last 30 days. And we could see right away there's been a lot of action near Puerto Rico itself, which is common. But one thing I've noticed is there's not a single earthquake to the north of this fault line right here. So that led me to believe believe that the USGS may not be recording earthquakes out in this area, but as we can see here on Volcano Discovery, all 3 of those earthquakes are still here in the data with seismograms to match. So I guess in the end, we have a little more questions than answers, but what's important is that we have the data here to look at. And for those of you that follow this type of stuff, I think it's very important that we start focusing a lot more on the Atlantic Ocean, especially after seeing multiple 6.1 and higher earthquakes taking place all within the same area, all within the same week. Not to mention, as we jump over to this article here that was posted only 4 hours ago completely randomly, and the topic is, when was Virginia's biggest earthquake? Now it makes me wonder why the mainstream media is beginning to put all this emphasis and attention on the US and earthquakes, and in most of these articles that have been being released recently, the West Coast has been completely left out. They are only talking about earthquakes that are taking place basically from the Great Lakes to the east. And something interesting is, during the filming of this video right here, we just had a 3.6 earthquake strike in Arkansas, just 5 kilometers northeast of Etowah. This was only 10.6 kilometers in depth, so again, another rare situation taking place in the US, all within a short period of time. There is a theme taking place when it comes to the eastern half of the United States and earthquake activity. We all know the dangers that take place in the West and the large earthquakes we've been waiting on for well over 100 years, but not many people are paying attention to the East Coast, and I just find it interesting that not only are we seeing the data with large earthquakes taking place and not being reported, but then almost on a daily basis there is an article being released by mainstream media with these random earthquake titles. Now, what would prompt them to write an article that has to do with earthquakes in West Virginia? Is there something we don't know? Are they preparing us for something mentally? Your guess is as good as mine. And as much as it's fun to dive into these rabbit holes, I try to only post things that I can show you proof of, and that's what we have right here. So finally, if we jump into 7 days and we click on 6.0 or higher, the only earthquakes we can see that have taken place in the Atlantic Ocean are the 3 we have just discussed in this video, which are still showing up on Volcano Discovery. I want to know your thoughts down below. Tell me what you think is going on with this situation, because 2 out of 3 of these earthquakes actually have people who reported feeling them, but yet the only data we could find is here on this one very website. Last but not least, a popular website I use for tracking earthquakes has now required you to have an account with them, so you can no longer see the data they offer unless you become a member. And this was one of those websites that would show the earthquakes that the USGS would not. All right, my friends, once again, I hope you all had a great Christmas or holiday, however you celebrate. I will have updates on these earthquakes and any other that take place, and I will do my best to get to the bottom of this situation, if there even is a bottom to get to. All right, everyone, have a good rest of your day. Shout out to Canada, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye. Stop right there, my friends. If you have not already, click that subscribe button and don't forget to hit the bell icon. Click all and you will get all notifications from this channel. And trust me, you won't be disappointed.